All right, welcome along to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast. Raf Diallo here, and I'm alongside Anthony Pyne of RTÉ Sport Online. We're also joined by former Bohemians manager Keith Long and ex-St. Pat's Shells and Drogheda boss Johnny McDonnell. We'll be chatting about the trills and spills from the League of Ireland very shortly, and also our live Champions League game, which is going to be on RTÉ2 and RTÉ Player tonight between Chelsea and Dortmund. That's a second leg, last 16. But Anthony, we're obviously into spring now and early March, and given where we are now, you know, the France game had felt a bit on the long finger, but at this stage, once you enter the same month, it does loom really, really large now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you'd mentioned just off air that we're going to chat to Keith a little bit about Evan Ferguson. The thing is, you can't really, well, like my opinion is that it's hard to look towards the France game without thinking about Evan, because he's in the last sort of 2 months, he's emerged as this potential silver bullet for Ireland because his development is just accelerated. You know, he's been on the radar for a long time now, even though he's still so young. But he potentially could be the focal point that you think Ireland are just crying out for. I know is he 18? I mean, he's still such a young player, and it's not fair to put all this expectation and pressure on him. But the reality is, he does look like Ireland's best striker. I mean, he's a striker playing the Premier League, scoring goals. You know, playing like bullying Liverpool, being totally at home against Arsenal. So it's exciting, and yeah, it's funny now. It's closing in, so we're obviously keeping a close eye on the Irish players and in the Championship in particular, because we have such a rump of players in that division. And you know, say the likes of Ryan Mannigan now is potentially playing himself into a starting position, maybe. But for me, it's like Evan has sort of dominated the narrative, and through no fault of his own, there's going to be so much attention and spotlight on when it comes to Stephen Kenny naming his team. You know, is he going to start? I think personally that there's a real chance he will start, but I don't know. I mean, we'll throw it out to the two lads in their opinion now, but that has added a very interesting dimension to things over the last couple of months, Raf.
Yeah, and Keith, just on Evan, obviously, as I said off air, that you know you played an important part in his sort of development in terms of giving him that first taste of first team football. It was that friendly against Chelsea, the 11th of July 2018, and you know a lot has been said about his physicality and sort of being ready to play even at the age of 14. And there was a lot of attention obviously on the age at the time, but I think, as you'd said, after that you spoke to Evan's parents and before making that decision to give him game time. What stood out about his mentality at that age? Because certainly the physicality was there, but to have the mentality to play men's football at that age of 14 says something about his character.
Yeah, I think Evan drove a lot of, you know, he drives his own standards. He wants to improve, he wants to be challenged, and he wants to be put into that environment where he's going to grow and be exposed to you know, high quality training, high quality players playing against the highest level of opposition that he possibly can. So what stood out to me was his mentality, you know, his aptitude, his drive and determination and focus to become a top player. And even at such an early age, he came into training with the first team of Bows. It didn't faze him in any way, shape or form. Obviously, some of the players in the Bows dressing room would have known Evan and his reputation around, you know, academy football, schoolboy football in Dublin. So he came into the environment like a duck to water. He trained with the first team quite a lot. We were in COVID times back then also, so it was difficult really to, you know, Evan. We also knew we had a window with Evan, so he was only going to ever be with us for a short time. But when he came into the training environment at the club, we all knew what a special talent he was. He had a zip to his finishing. He had, you know, his link up, his back to goal play was really good. His movement in the box is really sharp, and he can finish in lots of different ways. And we've seen that now translate through his development at the academy in Brighton into the 23s almost immediately, and then into the first team. And you can see how well he's adapted to Premier League football. So, you know, rightly so, we should be cautious and not to overhype Evan. But there is a large part of Evan, I'm sure, that will embrace the opportunity to become Ireland's talisman. And at 18 years of age, that's that's quite a statement to make. You know, who knows what will happen in the player's development, but as you've mentioned at the outset, that his support system is really good. His parents, the structure that he has, the people that he has around him. He's at the right football club with the right manager now. Graham Potter previously, the Zebri now, who's done a really good job since he's come in, and he spoke of how highly he rates Evan Ferguson. So I think we have to be cautiously optimistic about Evan and what he can do for us as a nation, but you know, excited at the same time.
And in terms of his profile of player, in terms of like what his ceiling is going to be stylistically, like where do you see his game going? Now, again, De Zerbi's the manager at Brighton at the moment. Who knows, you know, a couple of years down the line, and who knows in terms of Ferguson's future where he does end up. But stylistically, what type of player do you expect him to become?
Well, I think he's been sort of compared to, you know, the likes of Harry Kane. It's you know, and obviously he's been the outstanding striker of his generation in the Premier League. So, you know, that's you know, if Evan was to get anywhere close to Harry Kane, he'd have a fantastic career. But I suppose it's difficult to pigeonhole players and to try and compare them. Evan is very much his own player, is his own man, his aptitude and mentality is first class. He's got lots of different attributes. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, you know, and has been like that, you know, since a very, very young age. Hence the reason why he came into men's football so quickly. You know, so he's got lots of strings to his bows in terms of his game. Like I said, his link-up play, his back-to-goal play is really good. You know, his finishing, he can score, you know, with the head. He can score off both feet. His movement in the box in the final third is really sharp and concise and clever. So, you know, I suppose literally, you know, he's young, he's still going to develop, he's still going to adapt. He's coming on the radar of lots of big clubs. Like Brighton will want to hold on to him for as long as possible. He needs to stay in that environment, would be my view for this moment. You know, and continue to develop and to learn and to improve as a player. And I think he's in the right place at this moment in time to do that. He's getting minutes in the Premier League, which at 18 years of age, and you know, we've got you know, I think a rump of players playing in the Championship. There's not too many playing in the Premiership, and at 18 years of age, Evan is doing really well at this moment in time. So hopefully that can continue, and hopefully, you know, the ceiling for Evan is endless, you know, and where he can get to, where he can end up, you know, is all in the future. We don't know at this moment in time. All I know is that the support system and his attitude to the game is first class, and he won't be getting carried away. He'll take things in his stride, as he's done so far.
Yeah, and in terms of the immediate future, of course, it's the France game on 27th. Obviously, there's a friendly against Latvia as well. But Johnny, I mean, when you know, there's a lot of talk about whether Evan should start against France or not. I mean, where do you lie on that in that debate?
I think Keith summed it up really, really well. As I seen Evan playing at a young age for Kevin's against Belvedere. He always had something about him. But like, I think, you know, Keith touched on it there. We've gone through this with Troy Parrott, you know, and you know, a lot of responsibility on Evan's shoulders to be. You know, you're talking about throwing him in against the likes of France and stuff like that. As Keith said, he's got some great game time in the Premier League, and look, he's going to obviously give him a go and give him a chance. And he's an informed player at the moment, and I think he will play him. I think he definitely will play him.
Okay, and before we touch on the SSE Airtricity League, there were 2 rounds in the Premier Division, and then also the start of the Women's Premier Division, and also there was First Division action on the Friday. They're over on the continent. Matt Doherty has now made his Atletico Madrid debut as a substitute in a 6-1 drubbing of Sevilla, coming on with about 12 minutes to go, so just in time really for the international window. And then also Festi Ebosele made his first Udinese start against Atalanta as well, and by all accounts held his own as well. But turning our attentions to the Premier Division, so Friday night, the big one between Shamrock Rovers and Derry City went the way of the Candy Stripes, 2-1 at Tallaght Stadium. Cork City beat UCD 4-0, so their first win of the season. Shelbourne also got their first win of the campaign with a 1-0 win over Bows. Drogheda United got the better of Sligo Rovers by 1-0, and then Dundalk, and this was a result that kind of, not so much maybe Dundalk winning, but certainly the manner of the scoreline, Dundalk thrashing St. Pat's 5-0. And then last night, The thriller at Tala between Shamrock Rovers and Cork City ended 4-4, and then Bohemians beat Drogheda United 3-1. Dundalk beat Shells 2-1 coming from a goal down. Sligo Rovers, 10 men for about 70 minutes, beat St. Pat's 2-1, and then Derry City beat UCD 4-0. And I know Keith and Johnny were both at that latter game, so we might just start on Derry City. They're top of the table now. That win at UCD would have been expected, but I suppose going to Tala and winning there was the real statement early on, Johnny.
Yeah, and also, looking at Derry last night, McAneff got a fantastic first goal. They played really well coming in off the left wing and stuck in the top corner. But getting back to the thing about the win at Rovers, they now have a panel and a squad to be able to bring players in, and the jerseys are up for grabs. I looked at them last night. I don't think they got out of second or third gear. They just pushed on when they needed to. It was very, very easy for them last night. Pitch looked a bit difficult, but the rain would have helped prior to the game. But looked like a team that have the bit between their teeth at the moment. A brilliant start to the season. Even when they were 4-0 up, didn't take any chances, no nonsense, didn't want to concede any goals, didn't want to concede any ground. Every player looked like, as I said, fighting for the jersey around the pitch. And, Jordan McAneff, 2 really good goals. Second goal, great run round to the keeper. But overall, they have a big squad now, and, they've really good opportunities to give the lads a chance, give them a run around the pitch. And for the manager as well, it also gives him an opportunity to build trust with players, that he can go and play them, and he can say, look, I definitely know I can play him, I can bring him on, and whatever else. And it brings that competitiveness up around the dressing room as well, and around the training pitch. And the standards in training will be really, really high. The levels will be really, really high. But look, they look like a team that feel no matter what happens, they'll be okay, even at this early start of the part of the season.
And Keith, similarly, what have you made of Derry, having seen them up close?
Derry have a squad full of quality, absolute quality. Some shrewd signings in the off-season by the manager to complement and add to what he already had. If you look at Ben Doherty, the signing of Ben Doherty scored the first goal from a defending corner on a counter-attack in Tala the other night, which in my view was a really, really high quality game with 2 high quality teams. But Doherty got the goal. You look at some of the players that are not available through injury. Players that were like Adam O'Reilly, who's just signed and come in from St. Pat's on loan from Preston. But you look at Pat McElhaney, who didn't play last night, and the players that they're able, Ollie O'Neill, to come off the bench. Last night, Johnny mentioned that they played in second or third gear. They didn't get out of first gear, to be perfectly honest with you. The game is that comfortable for them. They managed the game really, really well. And last night, difficult place sometimes to go, UCD, certainly on a Monday night when the lax atmosphere, the pitch wasn't great. Johnny said that the rain helped. It did. Derry were able to move the ball quickly. They got a couple of goals, really good goals in the first half, and UCD probably started a little bit brightly in the second half for 10-15 minutes, and then Ollie O'Neill comes on and scores the third goal, and McGonigal gets, I think he's accredited with the fourth goal. So it's a comfortable night for Derry on the back of Friday's real test in Tala, because and if you look at Tala, the pitch, the stadium, the amount of supporters, I think there's over 7,000 in attendance. That's where we need the game to be in this country. That is the benchmark for us for football in this country. And if you've got 2 teams with high quality players wanting to play the game and implement their style of play in the manner that they do, it can only enhance what we're trying to do for Irish football in the League of Ireland. And if you look at some of the players on show, like Will Patching, he's a magician. In the build up to the second goal for Derry City, he slips in Ryan Graydon, is a boy that we had in his early days at Bows, and he's come on in leaps and bounds over the last couple of years, and in particular since he's gone to to Derry City. He slides in a great cross for McGonigal, and he just stands in angles and sweeps the ball home. So, you know, if you look at that game and the tempo, the intensity, and the quality on show in the environment, you know, on a good pitch with a good stadium, that's what we need to strive, and that's where you know, for all clubs to try and strive to achieve that level, because if we can do that, we'll have a really vibrant product on offer in this country.
Can just jump in, just to pick up on that, and not to go off on a big tangent on this, but definitely after the first 3 games of this, like, it feels like it just feels a little different. You know, it feels like something has happened around the league. That the crowds have been brilliant. I know it's still early in the season, but you're really like, you can, there's games sold out for this Friday night. Pat's Bowls is already sold out for this Friday night. Like, I'm just wondering, in your opinion, why is that? Like, it's obviously a number of factors around it. You mentioned the quality of the pitches helps, quality of the players that are coming into the league. But do you sense there's a swell in interest generally around the league in this country? And can you identify why that's happening?
I don't think there's one particular reason as to why necessarily. I think the clubs are working hard in their communities, in their environments, to generate that interest. I think there definitely is a subculture and a kickback potentially against the Premier League. You know, people want to go and see live events. Maybe it's since COVID, you know, when we were completely, you know, separated and isolated from you know, the rest of society. Maybe it's, you know, that you know, being together, being part of you know, of a club, and having the identity for a football club. And there's definitely been a groundswell, there's no doubt about it. You look at the crowds, you know, they're up across all clubs, both divisions. You know, if you look at ladies football, there's an appetite for that, huge appetite for that in Ireland at this moment in time. So, you know, football in this country, you know, is seeing a little bit of a renaissance. The exact reason, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm sure it's a combination of things. There's lots of young players in the league now. There is a regeneration. There's lots of high quality players. The product on offer is good. You go to see football on a Friday night, it's real. It's not Premier League football where, you know, you've got players that are completely isolated from the normal working class man and woman that attends games. You know, so this is real. It's proper football in that sense. It's in all its flaws, with all its you know, with all its difficulties that we have in terms of, you know, facilities and all that type of stuff. But it's real, and people want to experience that on a Friday night, and clubs deserve a lot of credit, you know, for promoting and working in the community, and to try and highlight and you know, to ensure that when supporters get into the ground, that they're doing as much as they can to try and keep them there and to bring them back every week. Obviously that you know, the responsibility of that is down to the team on the pitch. You know, the players and supporters together mantra. I think a lot of clubs are talking about how that identity between the people on the terraces and the players on the pitch, and I think that is important to try and, you know, drive people coming back to us. And if you look and I'm going on a long-winded tangent now here, but you look at Cork City as an example. I think Bows played Cork 2 weeks ago in the opening night of the season. I think there was close to 8,000 people. I stand corrected on the figures, but 7,000 people, 5,000 people at their home game against UCD. Obviously, they didn't have the large travelling away support that Bows would have brought on the opening night of the season. But it's so important for Cork to win against UCD to make sure that the crowds keep coming back to Turner's Cross, because a vibrant Cork City, a vibrant Bohemians, Rovers, whatever it is in Dublin, Derry City, clubs around the country, it's really important that we have that, you know, where soccer and football in this country has been strong, that we have those strongholds and vibrancy in those communities, bringing people and football back together.
Just a quick one, because just talking about Tala, by the time Tala's finished, you know, in July, I think the fourth stand goes up, like, it's going to be around the same capacity as Bournemouth in the Premier League. So I know, look, we've a long way to go before, obviously Tala is a fantastic stadium and the best stadium in the league, but I think it's just an interesting thing to take note of. You know, we're looking at
But our bar is quite low then, Anthony. Sorry, Johnny. Our bar is quite low. If we think Tallaght is the best stadium, and it is in the country, you know, and it's a fantastic stadium with a great pitch. I'm not being, but we got to strive for better. We got to strive for better stadiums and up and down the country. Tallaght is fantastic. It's wonderful. Every player in the country wants to play in that pitch, wants to go and play in front of that crowd, and they're the champions, and everybody wants to beat them. You know, but we can't be satisfied with that. We want to improve, and we want to get better stadiums, better facilities, so we can retain the supporters and have a vibrant football, product in this country.
You're just saying about, you just used the word I was going to use there. We have a product now on sale on Friday nights and Monday nights or whatever the games are on. You know, there's definitely an identity there, especially for young players. I think the social media has definitely helped the League of Ireland stream. But, people are asking me, what's going on? They can't get a ticket for Bowes, can't get a ticket for Rovers, can't get a ticket for Cork, can't get a ticket for Sligo, whatever it might be. People want to know what's going on. And in fairness, I think when people go to the live product, Keith, as you say, I think some people are surprised the quality, the atmosphere. It's a night out. It's a Friday night out for a lot of people now. They go to a League of Ireland game and they're buying into it. They become a part of the community, as you says, Keith, the work that's being done around by the clubs. And there's an association to the teams now. As you say, they know the players. The young players are, you talk to young lads and saying, oh, my mate is playing for Bowes, my mate is at Drogheda, my mate's at Longford, and the younger players can identify. And, the young players are striving now to try and get into the league because due to fellas like yourself, Keith, that have given young players a chance and promoted the young players. And the product is there. The quality is definitely there. I totally agree with you. On the pitch, the stadia can definitely be improved. But I think we've started somewhere now, and I think Keith is right. I think there's a few different reasons why. Whether it was COVID, people just want to get back out. The good weather is coming in. Friday nights. You can go to a game. It's weather is good. You can go and enjoy as you say, the good product. And Europe then is a big thing for us when we go and play in Europe and we get the profile of a club that happened a couple of years ago with Rovers and Dundalk and whatever. And, I've been there myself as a manager. The profile that you bring to the club around Europe, you're getting up and, you're on Sky Sports. The club is getting an identity. People are asking where do these players come from? Players going, the league is going to be a selling league, Keith, as you know. We're going to have to sell players on because they're coming through, but people are looking in and going, where are these coming from? Where's this young lad Evan Ferguson coming from? Where have they come from? So, the league is getting an identity. The players are getting profile, for the want of a better word. And it's brilliant. Even last night at the Derry match, not a big crowd there, but the quality of football when it was on was great. The atmosphere you talk about, Keith, that goes on in Dalymount and Tallaght, down in Cork, 7,000 or 8,000 people in Cork. Even last night, vital that he got a result up in Rovers last night. The place to be rocking in Turner's Cross next week or the next home game. I think they're away in the next game. But look, the product is definitely there. Now, they need to keep it going. The clubs, the FAI, everyone needs to keep this going. We need to keep putting it out there because the product is really, really good.
Yeah, and probably also helps sometimes even watching from afar on the TV when there's a shot of the crowd and it's just a big mass of people. It probably even draws more people in because it's that sort of build it, and if you build it, they will come.
Look at
kind
the
of thing.
quality of the goal last night, Raf. Cork, Crawley, was it?
Oh, Darragh Crowley, yeah.
Yeah, Crowley, the quality of the goal, like half a second gets it out of his feet. If that was in the Premier League, they'd be showing it. It'd be looping all day on Sky Sports. It was a brilliant finish, absolutely brilliant.
There was 22 goals last night, Johnny, across the games in the Premier League.
I think there's 57, Keith, since the league started, or 59.
Fantastic. And I think you rightly point to the fact that the rebranding of the League of Ireland, I think, has helped. I think the social media stuff that is being put out by the League of Ireland department has definitely helped. And young people are engaged by social media content. That's another factor. In the I suppose the subculture that is our league, but I would implore every lover of football, or Premier League football, Champions League football, have a look at some of the goals from the weekend's games, and you'll see mistakes, you'll see flaws, you'll see a lot of quality. A lot of goals from distance. Derek Crowley last night, being the, an outstanding finish from the arc of the centre circle. So, but it's there. It's a young players' league. It's a vibrant league. And hopefully we can build upon solid foundations that we've seen over the first 4 rounds of games this year.
Yeah, and that Darren Crowley goal from just inside the Shamrock Rovers half yesterday for Cork City put them temporarily at the time 2-1 up, and it ended up being 4-4. Sean Hoare with the late equaliser. Now, there was a long period of stoppage time. Aaron Bolger, there was a clash of heads. Fortunately, he's okay, according to what Colin Healy said afterwards. Just I think they were thinking of maybe taking him down to the hospital just for a precautionary check, but he seems to be all right. But Shamrock Rovers, 4 games into the season now, still waiting for a win, Keith. From what you've seen of them, what would be the biggest, and obviously they're not going to be hitting the panic buttons way too early in the season, but from what you've seen of them, what is the biggest concern maybe that Stephen Bradley would be looking to address?
Well, they won't, like you say, hit the panic buttons. They've been the course over the last few seasons as champions. They've got plenty of experienced players, an experienced manager that knows what it takes to win the league. So they will be a little bit concerned. There's no doubt. Their points after 4 games is probably not what they would have expected. Benchmark that, or you've got to. They were, I think, 3 minutes away from probably having 6 points. They conceded late down in Sligo, conceded late up in Drogheda, going into the Derry game, which they were very, very good. Last night, the concession of 4 goals at home would be a worry. I suppose the manner in which some of the goals that they conceded will be a concern, for Stephen. But they've got an experienced group of players. They'll work on what they need to improve. Obviously, against Derry, they were missing 3 of their starting centre halves, so players were playing out of position and so on. And maybe that had an impact for the first goal that they conceded on the counter attack. So. They will be disappointed with their start. There's no doubt about that. People talk about Rovers being a slow starters perennially. Every team in the country wants to get off to a fast start, and they don't want the margins to become too great between the teams that are supposed to be and will be up there challenging towards the end of the season. So I think they've got to start with trying to keep some clean sheets. They do have the players and the quality within that squad to do that. Maybe they're still tinkering with their best, starting 11 as such, albeit that they've got so many players. They've got a depth of squad, and anybody is capable of playing at any given time. And Stephen has that luxury of rotating players and changing things up a little bit. So I think Jack Bourne is yet to, and we talk about Jack, and Jack's probably fed up listening to people talk about him. So, he's such a key influential player, such a quality player, and they need him firing. They need all their other players firing, because Derry are going to take some catching even after 4 games.
Yeah, and Johnny, then also St. Pat's losing 5-0 away at Dundalk, which kind of came out of nowhere, at least from the scoreline point of view on Friday. And then they go up to Sligo Rovers. Sligo go down to 10 men after 20 minutes. John Mann getting sent off, and they still lose 2-1. What exactly happened over the weekend for them from what you saw?
Well, obviously conceding 5 goals is a knock to your confidence, and then to travel away up to Sligo on a Monday night, you'd want your next game to be at home. Well, I would anyway, and to go up to Sligo and concede the goals the way they did against the 10 men. Sligo looked, to watch a bit of it this morning, Sligo looked as if they did a lot of the play, and just lack of confidence around the group. They need to reboot. They need to sit down and start the season now. I mean, I watched them against Chelsea. They were lucky to get it, the winner against Chelsea. Chelsea should have got something out of the game. The late goal against Derry as well. So look, they've had a rocky start again. Just bringing players in, adding new players to the squad, and picking your best squad, as Keith said, similar to Rovers, but sometimes you just have to knuckle down and do the basics, and make sure you, as a player, you win your own battle around the pitch. You do the best for the team. But to go up to Dundalk and deliver a history there with Stevie leaving Pats and going to Dundalk, that definitely would have hurt. And I know it definitely would have hurt the owner of the club. But bad defeat. Watch the goals, set pieces that they conceded from set pieces, second balls, just not defending till the end, just not doing the basic things right. Defending purely at the back, taking chances when you shouldn't. Sometimes that's obviously down to the players, their responsibility to make the right decisions on the pitch. And sometimes when there's a lack of confidence, you need leaders. And that's what you need around the club. You need leaders around the team. Young Redmond is the captain of Pat's a young player. Is he young enough to lead the team? When they're in a bit of trouble like this, is it fair on a young player like that to have all that pressure on his shoulders? Look like he's going to be a decent player. So you need leaders around the pitch, and not just one. You need them all over the place. And will they be okay? I think they should be okay, but not going too well for them at the moment. As I say, to be down the bottom end of the table, already conceded 8 goals, being that there's 5 against Dundalk. But to go up to Sligo, you'd want to tighten things up, make sure you go up to Sligo and come away with a result. 0-0 preferably, or a 1-0. That's the way to do it. That's the way to bounce back.
Yeah, and in contrast, Johnny, then Dundalk, obviously on the other side of that result on the Friday, winning 5-0 after a difficult week previously. We were talking a fair bit about them on last week's podcast about, obviously they had issues on the pitch at the start of the season. And then off the pitch as well, there's the whole, there's all that talk and noise around the ownership and investment situation. Then to go and bounce back from all that, beating Pats 5-0, a team that was near enough to them in the table, and then last night going a goal down to a really good Shelbourne team, and then still finding a way to win 2-1. It's been a really good weekend for them.
Yeah, well, that's the saying. That's the flip side of the story. You were saying Pats for Dundalk. Again, young players. Tulloch getting a goal last night, impressive young player. As I said earlier about Shell, really, really difficult to play against. Physical team, get in your face, and a bit more experience than he had last year. But Dundalk, slow start, getting the draw, was a UCD, the first match, but they're starting to find their feet now. And these 2 games will definitely give them confidence. Sloggett looked like he played really well in midfield last night. Mally, decent player, and I think that they'll be okay. They'll be definitely pushing for a place in Europe. Whether they can compete with Shamrock Rovers when they get going, and whether they can compete with Derry at the moment, I don't know. Hubin's back in the goal scoring form. Got a brilliant header against Pat's free kick, but need him scoring goals. So good mixture of young players and the players blending in for Stevie, and a good couple of days for Dundalk pushes them right back up the table.
Yeah, it was a mixed weekend for Bohemians, Keith, and that was first the defeat to Shelbourne on the Friday, but then they bounced back last night, beating Drogheda United 3-1. So that's 3 wins in 4 so far. Obviously, you had a long association with the club. So what did you what have you made of their start of the season, I guess?
I think, well, they bounced back perfectly last night. I think it was without being disrespectful to Drogheda, because Drogheda have had a good start themselves, it probably was a good game for Bohs to have last night, because Friday, Monday games, it hurts the part-time teams a little bit more, I'm stating the obvious, because a lot of the Drogheda players will work during the day and they have to come in. Some don't, so some can rest. They'll prepare and recover over the weekend, as the full-time teams will do. But some of the boys from Drogheda would have to come in, having done a day's work and play last night. So it can be difficult. That being said, I think it was, by all accounts, it was a good performance by Bohs, and the perfect response to the disappointment of Friday night versus Shell. So Declan mixed things up. He changed it up. James McManus came into the middle of the park. A fantastic young player, great potential, great talent, great temperament. Keith Buckley gets moved back into the middle of the park, so he reshuffled the defence. Jay Ben, I think, came in at right back, and Christian Novak came in at centre back, the Polish centre back that was signed recently. Jordan Flores, who started the season exceptionally well, slotted in at left back, got another goal. So Ali Coote doing what Ali Coote does from distance, got another goal, and Akintunde, I think, was important, for him to get off the mark as well. So, they've had a great start to the season, really. Would have been disappointed to drop points against Shells, but 4 games in, I think every Bohemian supporter would have, if you look at the league table, will be happy right now.
Keith, can I just ask you about chatting about Evan Ferguson, another young Irish striker, Jonathan Afolabi? I know, like, when you brought him into the Bows last summer, were really positive and lots of praise about him. And by all accounts, he's been excellent for Bows. Hasn't got off the mark yet, but what is he bringing to the team and what qualities has he got? And do you think Jonathan, he was so good for the under-21s under Stephen Kenny, like, is there a chance for him to push back into the seniors over the next few years?
That would be difficult, I would imagine, but not impossible. It depends on Johnny, and I've known Jonathan since he was a kid at St. Joseph Boys, so I had a relationship with that team and the manager. Exceptionally good team. You can a lot of players have played in the league. A lot of players are playing in the UK that came from that particular team. But Johnny went away to Southampton, didn't quite click for him there, went up to Celtic, went on loan to a number of championship clubs. Johnny hasn't got off the mark yet, as you say, but there is goals in Johnny. You need to feed him. You need to and get the ball wide, get the ball into areas, get crosses into the box. His build-up play and his back-to-goal play is really good. He's powerful, he's quick, he's athletic. He needs to remain injury-free. I think he's a confident boy. He needs to, obviously, get off the mark, because if he does, he can go on a run. I remember a couple of seasons ago, Georgie Kelly didn't quite necessarily hit the ground running, but we provided him with a service and from wide, and with Ross Tierney, that combination, that synergy between players enabled Georgie to go on a great run and finish the season, with 24 goals, I think it was. So there was plenty of time for Johnny to get goals. I think his performances over the first 4 games have been pretty decent. If you look at the best chance in the game, in the first half of the game versus Shells last Friday, Johnny rolls Luke Bourne. You can see in an instant his power. He fires in a great cross for Dylan Colley, a left-footed cross for Dylan Connolly at the back post, and Dylan probably should score. But he's a real threat. He's a focal point for the team. He will enable other players to play as well. So the players around him, your 10, your 11, your 7, your wide players, your midfield players, the 8 arriving. Johnny will give you that platform to play. But it's important, like every other striker, they need goals, and confidence is a big thing. And there's no better thing for a striker than other than score goals. And maybe he needs it to go in off his backside. I don't think he struggles for confidence, like I say. He needs to remain injury free, and obviously Bows need to create those chances, and down the flanks is an ideal chance to create crossing opportunities for Johnny to get on the end of things. But we didn't see the best of Johnny last year. Brought him in to the club in the summer. He got injured in his second appearance for the club in a cup game against Lucan. He was a massive loss for us, because we felt at the time that he would be a big signing for us and a big player for us. I firmly believe he has a big season ahead of him. I don't think his performances have been too shabby. I think the manager and the coaches will be reasonably happy with Johnny, but you have to keep your foot on Johnny. You have to make sure that you drive and he's incentivized by goals, and to create and give him opportunities to get goals, and he can be a talisman for Bows, there's no doubt about it.
You said one thing there, said you got to keep feeding him. I hope they don't feed him too much, because he's a big unit. I wouldn't like to play against him. I totally agree with you. He's a big lad, and he does so much for the team, Keith. Like, reiterate what you said, he does so much for the team and bringing fellas into the game, and you got to keep telling him that. And if he doesn't keep doing that, that's so important for Bohemians at the moment. And I agree with you. I think goals will come along the way, but he's a big boy and a big unit.
Yeah, and we have to be, again, you can't. I know there was high hopes for Johnny when he moved to the UK. He scored a lot of goals for the Irish 21s, so that's what he needs to do for Bohemians, and then whatever happens next will happen.
Yeah, and I just wanted to ask about Keith Buckley as well. Obviously, he'd gone away to Australia last year, and obviously he's back now. But how big an influence is he behind the scenes, having worked with him for such a long time, Keith?
Yeah, it's like I sat with Trevor last night at the game. Trevor Crowley, my ex-coach, number 2 at Bows, and I met Keith last week for a cup of coffee. You know, he's just a gem, an absolute brilliant guy. And again, we've had lots of them down the years at Bohemians, but he epitomizes everything that's good about Bows. You know, his aptitude, his work ethic, his honesty, you know, the demands that he places on others. We didn't replace him last year. It's very, very hard to replace somebody, you know, of his caliber. And, you know, I'm not just talking about his ability on the football pitch, because I think he's an underrated footballer. You know, he's been playing out of position a little bit, went back into the middle of the park last week. But his influence around the dressing room cannot be underestimated. He's from the streets. He's an inner city boy. He's streetwise. He nothing gets past him, and he's got a brilliant way with people. You know, and sometimes he's ruthless. He'll cut your throat. You know, but he'll do it to your face. You know, he'll tell people honestly what he thinks. You know, I remember when he got the captain's armband, and he was probably a little bit concerned about, you know, trying to do everybody's job and not necessarily concentrating on his own. And we sat him down, I spoke with him, and I told him to focus first on what he does and what he does best. And then everything else, you know, will translate from that, will stem from that. And, you know, I think he has become, you know, a captain at the club that everybody looks up to. He does drive standards on a daily basis, and he's really, really critical, and I've no doubt that he's had a huge impact since his return to the club.
Yeah, and Bows on Friday will be playing St. Pat's at Richmond Park. UCD are going to be hosting Drogheda United. Derry City are going to be up against Dundalk. Shelburne and Shamrock Rovers meeting at Tolka Park. All of those are 7:45 p.m. kickoffs. And then on Saturday, Sligo Rovers are going to be playing Cork City at the Showgrounds, 7:45 p.m. kickoff there as well. Now in the first division, on Friday, Finn Harps got their first point of the season with a 1-1 draw against Bray Wanderers. Waterford, in what is expected to be the two teams expected to contend for automatic promotion, Galway United got the better of them by a single goal to nil. Wexford got their first win of the campaign as well, beating what had been an inform Athlone 3-0. Kerry also got their first point since joining the league with a 1-1 draw against Treaty United. And then Longford Town and Cove Ramblers on the Saturday drew 0-0. Now, Johnny, just on this very briefly, but you know, already it looks like Galway stealing a bit of a march in terms of the automatic promotion race, and Waterford, who were expected to be really maybe slight favourites ahead of them, wobbling ever so slightly.
Yeah, and you know what? Waterford was so unlucky last year. UCD beat them in the playoff game. And, you know, they have the facility down there. They've got the fan base down there. They were so disappointed not to come up. Definitely wobbling a little bit. But there's no doubt it'll I'd say definitely between the two of them, they've enough resources. And it's really, really important for them to get up into the Premier League at the expense of whoever it might be, you know, in the Premier League at the moment. But the likes of Wexford are watching a little bit of Wexford and how they're doing. James Kelly is taking over the role there, a new position for James, and they'll pick up a few points along the way. But look, Waterford, I think, will come out with that slump, and I think they'll be okay. They've enough about them.
Yeah, and in the Women's Premier Division, it got underway now for 2023. Now it's an 11-team league, obviously, with Shamrock Rovers coming in. It was a 4-way title race last season. Potentially 5 teams could be involved in this as the season goes on, but Athlone, one of the teams that contended last season, runners up in the cup, and also runners up in the league, lost their opening game 3-1 to Peamount United. Sligo Rovers lost 2-1 at home to the new rivals Shamrock Rovers, and then Treaty United and Anya Gorman scoring a last-minute header there as well. So one of the big signings during the off-season. And then Treaty lost 1-0 at home to Bows. Shelburne, the reigning double champions, got off to the best of starts, 6-0 win over Cork City. And then Galway lost 1-0 at home to Wexford Youths, and with Ciara Rossiter scoring the winner in that game. And Anthony, looking at this, obviously great starts for Shells, for Peamount, for Wexford. Athlone obviously won the President's Cup the week before and will be looking to bounce back as quickly as possible. But I guess the Shamrock Rovers game at Sligo Rovers is probably the one that would have captured the most attention, and getting off to a winning start probably fuels this idea that it could end up being a 5-team title race.
Yeah, I think ominously for the rest, like Anya O'Gorman got the winner, but they had Stephanie Roach, Abby Larkin, Amanda Budden is in nets. Jess Hennessy was centre half for Athlone Town last season. She was brilliant. She signed with Rovers. And they've got a really, really good coach, Holly O'Neill. So you think they're only going to get better, Raf, and you would expect Rovers. They have a lot of quality there, well set up. It was so tight last season. It went to the last day. Again, that's the second year in a row. Actually, that title race went right down to the very last day. 2 years ago, it was Wexford, Youths and Shells. It was 3 teams that could have won it last season. So Athlone were beaten in the first day of the season, but they're going in the right direction. They've actually just announced that they're going to improve the facility in Athlone Town Stadium to incorporate a specific area for the women's team. So they're really putting a lot of resources and faith into the growth of the women's game there, and they've got a good link up with Athlone Town IT as well, which allows them to sort of helps them attract the players. They have lost some big players. Emily Corbett left them as well. She was a really important striker. There's been a right merry-go-round over the course of the winter because of the arrival of the Shamrock Rovers. They've attracted a lot of good players to the club, and that's led to a lot of moving parts. But I think we could probably expect the usual suspects in the mix, Peamount, Wexford Youth, Shelbourne. I think Athlone will be thereabouts again, and yes, Shamrock Rovers will be involved in that this year, I would expect. The other interesting thing over the last couple of days, Raf, was the announcement of an all-Ireland women's competition in June, which is it's sort of just to fill the gap that's going to be there because of the Women's World Cup. There'll be no football over the course of the Women's World Cup, so there's going to be an all-Ireland competition between the women's Premier Division teams down here and the Northern Ireland Women's Premiership side. It's a 16-team competition split into four groups of 4 teams. So that's really interesting, and I think it makes loads of sense. You don't want to just let the domestic game sag for whatever 4 or 5 weeks. Try and build on the momentum and the huge interest garnered by Ireland making the World Cup in Australia. And I think as well, just from the point of view that there's been loads of discussion of a potential All-Ireland League in the men's game here in the last couple of years, it sort of died down. But I think if nothing else, just to see as a sort of some kind of blueprint logistically how that goes. Now it's a month-long competition. It's not the same as having an All-Ireland League going forward, but it's still interesting to keep an eye on it and see how it goes, and to see can they continue to kind of piggyback on the massive momentum that Vera Pauw's Ireland team has generated here over the course of last year by making the breakthrough and making it to the World Cup.
Just on the same topic, you're talking about the All-Ireland League for the women's. I was in the AUL recently and I seen Bohemians senior ladies team playing against Linfield, so they're obviously trying to get that momentum going. It was a good game, a good quality game. Bohemians are a very young group of players, but the quality of football was excellent. Linfield had a few Northern Ireland internationals, so it makes sense to what Anthony is saying in relation to maybe the All-Ireland League, that they're just trying to get up and running at the moment. So I just wanted to throw that in. Obviously, that's just because I was there and I seen the game. Good quality stuff, some good young players.
Yeah, and
they had their breakthrough as well, Northern Ireland, Raf. Sorry, just under Kenny Shields. Like, they had their moment when they made the Euros, and now obviously the Republic of Ireland have done the same. So this is a kind of opportunity to build momentum, and it's very. We spoke about the League of Ireland at the top of the podcast here, like trying to build momentum and strike when the iron's hot, kind of thing. So I think it's a good idea, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think they still have to give it the new competition a name as well. I don't think they have a title sponsor added as well. But as you said, 11 teams from the League of Ireland and then 5 from Northern Ireland, including Derry City as well. We've got live Champions League tonight as well between Chelsea and Dortmund. So this is the second leg, last 16 tie. Dortmund won the home leg 1-0 a couple of weeks ago, and I suppose Keith, Graham Potter, beyond the pressure he's been feeling in the Premier League, with the run of results up until the Leeds game at the weekend when they won 1-0. You know, progression in the Champions League is the other side of the coin for him as well. And there is a huge amount of pressure coming into this. Obviously, they have to turn the result around first against Dortmund, but this is a Dortmund team that have won, I think, 10 in a row since the start of the year, on a 100% record, challenging for the Bundesliga. It's not going to get easy for them.
No, and the pressure is on, like you say. They got their first win in a long time against Leeds at the weekend, so that gives them a little bit of confidence. I'm not sure whether the performance necessarily was outstanding, but the result was what everybody would have wanted. Graham Potter is a new manager at Chelsea. There's lots of change, lots of recruitment of players, high quality players coming in, and you know, for extortionate amount of money. So it's going to take him time to you know, fully understand the dynamics of the club, the ownership, the players that have come in, to fully implement his philosophy and his ideology and how he wants to try and play. And you know, he has coached at every level of the game. You know, in the UK, to Scandinavia with Östersunds at Sweden, to Brighton, Swansea in the Championship, Brighton in the Premier League. So, you know, a number of weeks ago, they were talking about Graham Potter as being the next England manager and being, you know, a potential, you know, great manager. He's still very much that. He needs time to implement his ideas. I think a lot of the narrative around, obviously, results haven't been good since he's gone into the club, but, you know, the insatiable nature of the English media in terms of looking for stories, looking for, you know, the tradition at Chelsea has always been with the previous owner, Abramovich. He'd get rid of managers, you know, at the drop of a hat if things weren't going necessarily well. I think one of the key criteria for Potter going into Chelsea would have been, you know, the reassurance from the owner, Tom Bowley, to give him time to implement his ideas and to get his style of play across, and results hopefully will, you know, start improving for Graham Potter, because I really like him. I think he's a good young manager. He's done really well at other clubs, and he deserves time to, like I said, to turn things around a little bit. But he is under pressure. I thought they were very good in the game a couple of weeks ago. A little bit unlucky to come into this tie tonight 1-0 down, but the pressure is on. Can they turn it around? They definitely got the players that can do so, and obviously it will take a little bit of pressure off Potter in the short term if they were to come through to tonight's round of 16.
Yeah, and Johnny, help me make sense of this Liverpool 7, Man United 0 result, because you know, the narrative building into the game at the weekend or on Sunday was that, you know, Man United are back, and obviously Liverpool had been kind of picking up results, but there was a sense that United are a little bit further along than them, and then that result happens. I mean, do you look at it as a freak result, or how do you respond to it from what you saw?
Depends on your perspective, whether you're Man United or Liverpool and stuff. But look, you know, you talk about Manchester United coming back. In fairness, Ten Hag has come in. They've come back from somewhere where it was easy enough to come back from, because they were at a really low level for the club of Manchester United size, I'd have to say. And he's definitely building momentum with the team. You know, are they at the levels where they'll win the league? Maybe at the levels where they might get into the Champions League and finish in the top 4. Europa League, last 16, the win against Barcelona, you know, all that's good momentum. But, you know, on the day against Liverpool, I just think it was a one-off. I really do. I think Liverpool had got a couple of results. I think that was their 5th clean sheet in a row for Liverpool. I think United were building momentum in what they were trying to do, you know, coming out and winning the League Cup, you know, and the Carabao Cup. And I just think it was one of them off days. Everything that went wrong could have went wrong. If they'd have got the first goal, would Liverpool have been as dynamic? Would have been as open? Would he have tightened it up? I think Ten Hag is doing things in the right way. He's setting the right standards, you know, the right levels. You're going to have an off day. It was more than an off day. It was a horrible day for the players and the team and the club and the supporters and all that. I think United will bounce back from that. Sometimes you need a kick in the backside now and again to reboot you, and it just happened to be on the day against their biggest rivals probably. And I think Ten Hag will definitely bring United back to levels that Manchester United should be at. Whether they'll go on and win Champions League again in the near future, or even the Premier League, I'm not sure yet, depending on who he brings in and what he brings in. But just one of them days, I think that anything that could have went wrong on the day did go wrong. But in saying that, I think some of the attitude of some of the players at the scores, 4-5, 6-0, Fernandes not chasing fellas back, throwing his hands in the air. I think even no matter what, you've still got to play to the final whistle, give everything that you can, that you play against whoever you're marking, and you just give your best on the day. And if the final result is 7-0, you can stand up and say, I've given the best I could give. And, just that little bit of attitude, giving up too easy. I think Roy Keane spoke about it afterwards as well. So, Keane just talking about leaders, in Bowes, and talking about leaders and patch. You need leaders all over the pitch, because sometimes it just takes one little thing. One like last night, young O'Neill chasing the ball down for Derry. The UCD player is 5 yards on him. He gets in behind the player and he scores a goal there with nothing, because he didn't give up on it. The attitude, the application and stuff. And I think you've got to bring that right through. But to answer your question, once off, yeah, I think United will be okay.
Yeah, and Keith, I suppose briefly on this as well, in terms of Erik ten Hag walking into the dressing room immediately after that, I mean, the players themselves will know. I mean, the scoreline tells them enough that they were just really, really badly beaten, and the performance wasn't good enough. But as a manager, when you walk into a dressing room after results that is similar to that, like, how do you go straight through them straight away, or do you let things settle, or what's the psychological way to deal with it?
Well, I think he came out in his interview after match and quoted 4 times. I think he mentioned the word unprofessional. So there's no doubt immediately he would have let the players know of his disappointment, and he would have told them, I'm sure in quite industrial language, his feelings, because it was an embarrassing day for a club of Man United stature against their biggest rivals. There's no doubt about it. So, but he in my view, he will not tolerate some of the stuff that he witnessed on Sunday, and you won't see the true effects of that until maybe the summer, the next window, when he'll 1 or 2 players may see the door at United as a result of yesterday. So obviously they'll analyse the performance, and you don't have to scratch the surface too far. Like, some of the defending was abysmal. It wasn't acceptable. It's unprofessional, as he came out and said after the game, Erik ten Hag. I think he's done a good job there. He's proven that he's prepared to make difficult decisions, and he's drove the standards, like Johnny said, from a low enough base. But they've had a good season. They've won silverware in the Carabao Cup. They're 3rd in the table. I think it was interesting as well, Jurgen Klopp, he didn't indulge in and overdo the celebrations at the end of the game, because remember, Liverpool are 7 points behind Manchester United. So that shows you the difficulty Liverpool have had this season. Also, I think you've seen the emergence of a potential new front line at Liverpool, with Gakpo, with Núñez, Salah, Luis Diaz to come back in. So there's a regeneration going on there. They obviously have to recruit well in the summer and look at other areas of the pitch, particularly midfield and maybe at central defence, fullbacks and so on. So, it was interesting. I'm not quite sure whether it was a freak result. If you look at some of the goals, Liverpool were outstanding, but some of the defending was abysmal from Manchester United, and it won't be accepted. In the fullness of time, you'll see the outcome or the fallout from yesterday's or Sunday's performance.
Yeah, and a final point before we go, Anthony, just on that as well, and I suppose more from the Liverpool point of view, but as Keith said there, Klopp didn't really play up too much to the whole 7-0 side of it, because look, a win is a win, but they're still where they are. The Champions League route, obviously they're 3 goals. Real Madrid are 3 goals to the good against them going into the second leg next week, so that's not really a target. However, just now the top 4 has become a very realistic thing, with Spurs losing at the weekend as well, Newcastle wobbling, so they do have something to fight for now for the run-in.
Oh, a huge thing to fight for, because of the way the club is run. Like, it's very important that they get into the top 4. That it's a self-sustainable model. the owners just don't throw money. They basically give whatever Liverpool generate, and they generate a lot of money. They have over the last few years because they consistently qualified for the Champions League and done really well in it. They've made 2 finals. They tend to go deep in it, and they look like they're out this year. So yeah, it's massive for them. I think they do have a chance of making top 4 because of the teams they're chasing. They're chasing Newcastle, who've kind of run out of gas the last few weeks, and Tottenham, who are just really up and down. Like Liverpool themselves go to Bournemouth this Saturday lunchtime. Would you be shocked if they lost? You know, from what we've seen this season, they've been just all over, you know, really up and down. And let's not, as Keith says, like if Sunday was, the second half was unbelievable. You know, it was brilliant as Liverpool were. United were just, they kind of looked like they couldn't accept what was happening to them. You know, when it went to 3-0, rather than consolidate, they just lost all discipline, and it was crazy. But Liverpool Liverpool could have got bet 6-0 by Brighton and at Brentford. It's been a mad season. So they still have plenty of work to do, and they have a lot of tough games. They have to go to City, they have to play Arsenal. They have a lot of tough fixtures coming up, but you know, one to savour for them on Sunday, because it was you just couldn't believe what was happening. And even at half time, nobody would have saw that second half coming, because Manchester United had actually been pretty good in the first half. It was mad. But yeah, that top 4 is massive for them, Raf. Yeah, plenty of work to do, and it's really important that they try and squeeze in.
Yeah, Graham
Sorry,
Souness saw coming anyway. Yeah,
Raf, let me come in on this. Here's one thing that we haven't considered, or don't think I've seen it too much. Dalglish was 70, I think, over the weekend. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure whether he's 70, 71 or whatever it might have been. But the King wore number 7 on the back of his jersey. So therefore, you know, the players at Liverpool had to deliver a performance to match the standards of the King.
well, I tell you one thing: Sprung Care was 70 the weekend. The St. Pat's players definitely didn't do it for him.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's so the stars.
Now you know my persuasion.
Yeah, the stars aligned on in one of those fixtures has just been mentioned.
Both teams in red.
But anyway, yes, that's it for today. Anyway, we've got, as I said, Chelsea versus Dortmund tonight on RTÉ2 and the RTÉ Player from 7:30 p.m. Johnny and Keith, thanks a million for taking the time, and also Anthony Pyne.
Thanks, Raf.